If your coin total is mudded after Team of the Year and you want to get some back, make sure you check out MMOXP.com. Their link is down in the description. They're very fast, they're very cheap, they're very reliable, and if you use my code Rema, you can get 5% off all your orders. This supports the channel greatly, and I do very much appreciate it. So what's up guys, my name's Ash and welcome back to a brand new video. In today's video guys, I've got some custom tactics and player instructions for the 4-3-3-4 formation, but just before we get into today's video, I'd very much appreciate it if you could drop this video a thumbs up, as that does really help with the YouTube search algorithm. Also subscribe to the channel if you are new so you never miss out on any videos like this one, and don't forget to turn on notifications so you are notified when a video is posted. And also guys, I'd appreciate it if you could comment down below some video ideas you have for me, as I'm really looking to expand my content, but unfortunately I'm about as creative as EA is with their promos, so I do need a bit of help, and yeah, I would very much appreciate it. Okay guys, for the defensive style I like to use balance. This is because it gives me the greatest control over my defense. When I need to press my opponent, I'm able to do so, and when I need to drop off and be a little bit more conservative, I'm able to do that. A lot of people like to use pressure tactics, but I'm not a big fan, as I feel like you lose the variety in your defense, so I do suggest getting used to balance. But that being said, if you feel more comfortable with pressure tactics, then go right ahead. Now moving on to the defensive width, I like to use this on 45. This is so the team keeps nice and compact when we are defending, but at the same time we have a decent coverage of the wings, so when people try and run down the wings, we're also able to reach those areas. Now for depth guys, I like to have this on 55. This is because I find it to be a good middle ground where you're not sitting too deep and you're not sitting too high up the pitch, so you're not being constantly pinned back because your defensive line is too low, and you're not consistently being through balled because it's too high. You kind of have that nice middle ground, which I do like with this formation. Now moving on to build up play guys, I suggest using balance. The reason for this is it suits you up for all the different types of FIFA 23 gameplay that you might experience. Now what I mean by this is FIFA 23 obviously has very inconsistent gameplay. It's been a problem that we've had for years, where you could have different types of gameplay. So you could have like fast and laggy, you could have slow and laggy, you can have like heavy and stuttery. There's so many different types, so I like to have it on balance because it suits you up for most types of gameplay. If you have something like fast build up, it works very nicely when the gameplay is quick and responsive, but it's not very good when it's not, so balanced is the most consistent for me. Now moving on to chance creation guys, I suggest direct passing. The reason for this is it's just the best setting to use. If you look at the diagram in the bottom right hand corner of the screen, you can see the white dots, which are your attackers. They're consistently moving around in that dynamic motion to break through that defensive line, so you do get to create more chances. If you look at something like balance, this doesn't really happen. They're very static and they don't really affect the defense that much, so direct passing is an absolute must in my opinion. For attacking width guys, I like to have this bang in the middle on 50. The reason for this is the 4-3-3 is obviously quite a wide formation, but I don't like playing it so wide to the point our players are completely hugging the sidelines, because they feel very disconnected from each other when you do that. Similarly, you don't want it to be super narrow, otherwise it plays more like a 4-3-2-1, which again you don't really want, or a 4-3-1-2. It just feels too narrow, which doesn't suit this formation, so I suggest having the width on 50 because it's bang in the middle and you get that balance where the wingers are nice and wide, but at the same time they're not too wide, so it just feels very good for this team with this formation because it just feels super balanced. Now moving on to players in box guys, I have this on 6. The reason for this is I obviously like to create chances and I need to get players into the box to finish off those chances, but at the same time I don't want to overcommit the entire team to the point where we get counter-attacked, so I found 6 to be a good middle ground where we get players into the box, but when we lose the ball we're not immediately in trouble. For corners and free kicks, I just have these on 1 because of my corner routine. I posted a video on this the other day, which is in the top right hand corner of the screen if you want to see it, so I don't really need to cross the ball from set pieces, so it makes sense for me to have it on 1 so I don't get counter-attacked. For the players you want to use guys, in the striker position I suggest a nice well-rounded striker because this is a one striker formation. When you have a one striker formation you have to compensate for the fact that there is only one striker instead of 2, so in a 2 striker formation where you can get the balance between the 2 actual players, for example using like Haaland and Ben Yedder, in a 1 striker formation you have to get that balance all in one player. So I like to use Robbie Keane as he's got the 5-star weak foot, he's got very good shooting, he's quick, he's got good physical, and he's able to dribble and pass pass, so he's able to do a bit of everything. So I suggest getting a well-rounded striker if you can. Now in the left wing and right wing positions, you just need good winger players. Very self-explanatory, but you're going to want players with pace, good dribbling, skills if you can get them, and yeah, you just need these to be as good as you can get them in the winger areas. Now for the cam, I suggest a nice technical player, somebody that is able to dribble, they're agile, they're able to pass, shoot, basically do a bit of everything, because they're your main playmaker in this formation. You're not going to want a super clunky player in this position. Now in the left centre mid spot, I suggest a more defensive midfielder, so he's almost going to act like a CDM at times. You're going to want somebody with a medium high work rate if you can get it, because that gives them the best defensive contributions and they don't go flying forward in attack because of the medium attacking work rate. You're going to want somebody with very good defensive stats and somebody that is just going to be a rock for you in the midfield. Now in the right centre mid spot, I suggest a more box to box player, so I'm using the flashback Paul Pogba. He's got very well rounded stats, and yeah, if you can get a high work rate in this position, that is super useful, because you're going to get the maximum contribution in attack and defense. But for example, this version of Pogba is a high medium and he works fine, so don't stress too much about the work rates, but they are an added benefit if you can get them. Now in the fullback spots, I like to go for a bit of a balance between the two, so I have one more technical player in Roberto Carlos. This is somebody that's a bit better on the ball and can sometimes be a bit more creative when we need that. And then we've got one more defensively solid player in Cafu, somebody that's not really going to be good in attack and their sole purpose is just to defend for us. So I like to have that balance, but that being said, if you want to have two attacking fullbacks or two defensive fullbacks, that is completely fine. As for the centre backs and goalkeeper, these just need to be as good as you can possibly get them, and yeah, there's not much to say there. So moving on to player instructions, as far as the instructions go, a lot of the time they're very basic in this formation because I don't like to restrict the players too much. So starting off with the striker, I just have him on stay central. The reason we have him on stay central is we don't need him covering those wide areas, as we've already got wingers there, so he needs to stay central so he's always in the right position, you know. We don't need him occupying an area that is already occupied. As for everything else, I leave him alone, especially mixed attack, because I don't just want this player running in behind all the time. Sometimes we might want him to sit a little bit deeper and act like a centre forward so he can play in the other players. Sometimes we want him to run in behind, and other times we want him to just help build up the play. So having him on mixed attack really does help the build up play, in my opinion, but some people do prefer having getting behind, but I don't really suggest it in this formation in particular. As for the wingers, I just completely leave them alone because I don't like to restrict these players. Just completely leaving them alone really does help your attacking game, because you get the most freedom out of these players. You know, you sometimes want them to cut inside, other times you want them to stay wide, sometimes you want them to drop back in defense, other times you want them to stay forward, sometimes you want them to get into the box for cross, other times you don't. So having them on completely default settings really does get the most variety out of these players, so I do really enjoy leaving them alone. For the cam, I just have him on get into the box for cross. The reason for this is if you have them on balanced crossing runs, sometimes they don't really get involved, so it's important to have them on get into the box for cross so you're getting the most out of this player. As for everything else, we completely leave him alone because we don't want to touch him all that much. As for the defensive midfielder, the left centre mid in my case, I have him on stay back while attacking and cover centre. We have him on cover centre because we want him to cover those central areas. We've already got wide players, so we don't need him to cover those wing areas, so we have him on cover centre for that reason. We have him on stay back while attacking because we don't really want this player to go forward. He's our more defensive midfielder, so it's important that he stays back to add defensive support. Now moving on to the right centre mid, the box to box player, we have everything else on default, and then we have him on cover centre. We have him on cover centre again because we don't want him to cover those wing areas, as we've already got wide players, and we leave him alone because he's a box to box midfielder. We want him to do a bit of everything, so we don't want to restrict him. This is why I said a high work rate is super good if you can get it, but don't worry if you can't. As for both fullbacks, I have them on stay back while attacking, so the left back and right back stay back while attacking because we don't really need them to go forward as much in this formation. I mainly use my fullbacks to attack when I'm using a narrow formation because we need to get that extra width. In a wide formation like the 4-3-3, we've already got width with the wingers, so we don't really need to commit the fullbacks because it doesn't really add all that much to the attack. That being said, if you are struggling and you do need a goal, you can maybe put one of them on join the attack, for example, to really get that extra support, but I really don't suggest it. I would have them both on stay back while attacking, as it makes it the most defensively solid. So yeah, both fullbacks stay back while attacking. As for the centre backs and goalkeepers, keeper, I just completely leave them alone. But yeah guys, that is everything for the video. If you have enjoyed or found this useful, I'd very much appreciate it if you could drop it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you are new so you never miss out on any videos like this one, and don't forget to turn on notifications so you are notified when a video is posted. And with all that aside guys, I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day, and I'll catch you all later. Peace.